Hey out there, and welcome to today's Search Engine Journal webinar. It's a happy Wednesday, and we hope you're having a great day. We're thrilled to have you here with us. I am joined by this fabulous duo from Datametrics. I've got Sophie Moule, Head of Product and Marketing, and Jon Earnshaw, Chief Product Evangelist. And in the background, we've also got John Barker, who's going to be joining you all in the breakout room today. So Sophie and Jon, thanks for joining us here again today.
Thank you so much, Heather. It's great to be back here to talk about one of our favorite subjects of all time.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about just before we came on, right, Jon? This is your favorite. So I'm going to do some quick housekeeping, and then I'm going to let you two take over. So today we're here to talk about ways you can boost your SEO and how to identify and eliminate keyword cannibalization. So my name's Heather. If you don't know, if you haven't been to one of our SEJ webinars, I'm going to be your moderator today. Please use hashtag SEJ Webinars to share any cool tidbits from today's learning on social. If you experience any technical difficulties, please use the chat box to let us know. And while we're at it, let us know where you're from. Where are you dialing in from today? So I just totally showed my age on that. So if we can cut that out for later. There's a closed captioning option. It's the little CC in the top right of your screen. And if you have any questions for Sophie and Jon, add those to the questions tab. If you see a question that you like, give it a little thumbs up, and we'll see that that's important to you all out there, and we'll try to ask those at the end when we do the Q&A. We will have any resources that are mentioned today in your recap email, and you'll get that later today as well. It'll include the recording, the slides, any of those resources, so watch your inbox for that. And after the webinar, if you can stick around, take a short survey. It takes like 30 seconds. It lets us know what you thought of today's webinar and how we can make them more useful for you. And so, yeah, that's all I got. So Jon, Sophie, it's all yours, and I'll see everybody at the Q&A.
Thanks, Heather. Thank you. So I think last time I got so excited, I forgot to introduce myself, as you said, yep. Sophie. So yeah, I am Jon Earnshaw, Chief Product Evangelist, and I'm going to pass to Sophie, who's going to get the ball rolling.
Yep, thanks, Jon. Well done for remembering to introduce yourself. So I'm Sophie. I'm the Head of Product Marketing at Datametrics. I've had just over 10 years experience in e-commerce SEO specifically. And we're really excited to be talking to you today about cannibalization.
I'm just looking to see where people are coming from. Literally from everywhere. I can't even read it out. There are too many. So let's keep going.
Cool. Well, before we get started, we just wanted to quickly introduce Datametrics. So Datametrics is an enterprise-level SEO platform, and we specialize on identifying and prioritizing commercial organic opportunities. If you're interested in the platform, we do have a breakout room with the fabulous John Barker after this session, who will be showing some more specific examples of the platform, giving data from the US electrical space, but it will be relevant to anybody who's interested to see it. And you should join that, not only just to see John Barker's amazing beard. So, okay, so throughout this webinar, we're going to be talking about cannibalization, and I genuinely don't know anyone who's more passionate about this topic than Jon Earnshaw. So I saw him speak about this about 6 years ago at Brighton SEO, and he's as enthusiastic about it today as he was then. He said he even dreams about it just before we got on this call, so that's how much he loves it. So today we'll be going through what is cannibalization, why is it such a big problem, how to identify the different types of cannibalization, and more importantly, how to fix it and how to monitor it going forward.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Yeah, I mean, really, this is a subject I've studied for between 15 and 20 years, deeply, passionately. And cannibalization is something that we all suffer from, but it's so easy to fix and so easy to prevent as well. So what is it? I'm sure you've all heard of it, but there is still some confusion about exactly what it is. Now, we all know there's no such thing as a duplicate content penalty, and indeed there isn't. But one thing we are absolutely sure of is that Google is becoming increasingly sensitive to content of a similar nature. And when it comes to content that's actually quite similar, sometimes Google cannot decide which one to return. If you don't make the decision, you leave it to Google, then you're going to end up in a world of cannibalization. And just as we go on today, we're going to be using the term cannibalization and conflict equally. They mean the same thing. So it's a keyword thing. It really is, and you've got to understand this from the start. It's not about URLs, it's about keywords. And it's quite possible for one URL to compete with another URL and to cannibalize for one or more keywords, but not for other keywords. And a really good example, and I was thinking about this the other day, men's linen blazers, men's cotton blazers, best men's blazers, 3 pages. They could all conflict or cannibalize for the term men's blazers. But yet the linen blazers will not conflict with the other 2 for the keyword linen blazers. So remember that as we go forward. It's so important. It really is a keyword thing. Okay. Now, having said that, there are lots of different types of cannibalizations. There's actually 4, but I'm not going to talk about the 4th one. If anyone wants to know later, we can discuss that in the questions at the end. But for today, we're going to talk about internal cannibalization or internal conflict. There are other forms of cannibalization. You can have international, but that's different, and that's all down to the setup of hreflang and other such things. And then you've got subdomain cannibalization. And one thing I'll say about subdomains is just don't use them. If you've got a help section on your site, have it as a subfolder. Do not have it as a subdomain, because subdomains were essentially built to cannibalize your main domain and kill your overall visibility. So do bear that in mind. So having said that, we're going to focus on internal. What causes it? How does it happen? Well, there are lots of causes, but 99% of the time, cannibalization of your pages is down to one of these 4 things, or overlapping theme. Okay, when you theme a page, that's when you effectively SEO it, URL, title, tags, header 1, meta description, etc. But really, when we talk about overlapping theme, what causes cannibalization? That's when your titles are too similar. That's probably the main cause of it. Another cause of cannibalization is authority injection. And this is when, I'll give you a really good example. One of Britain's best banks. Can I call them out? No, I can't. It's my bank. I can't call them out. Anyway, one of Britain's best banks was on page 1 of Google for best bank, doing really well. That's a big term. They should be happy with that. And suddenly they dropped from the top of page 1 down to about position 95. You know what caused that? They had a PDF on their site saying they were the best bank for students. And that PDF got links from every university, giving it incredible authority, and it cannibalized the other page that they wanted to return. They didn't swap pages or places in Google. Literally, this one dropped to about position 98 and they lost. I thought they'd be upset about that, but they actually didn't care. Goodness knows why. When they spend so much money on branding and advertising. Number 3, poor internal linking. You've got to get your internal linking on point. More on this later. And finally, non-contextual optimization. If you've seen us talk before, we get obsessed about contextual optimization. You've got to optimize your content in the context of your ecosystem. If you just inject content in there without looking to see what's already in there, you're going to suffer from cannibalization. Now it's the time for the first poll. Do you suffer from cannibalization? Do you and your content? Yes, no, or that's what I'm here to find out. Super interested in this.
So I just pushed that live. It should pop up for most people. If it's not, you'll find it in the polls tab. And we'll give it like 1 more second for these numbers to start coming in. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So we've got 64% of people saying, see, that's what I'm here to find out about. 32% say yes, they are definitely suffering, and 4% are saying no. So I get some more.
Wonderful. Oh, actually, Actually, I forgot I have to do it myself as well, don't I? Just done that. And I put yes, because everybody suffers from cannibalization. So those who say no, I would love you to send us your domains. And John Barker, who is in the breakout room, he could check that for you. Everybody suffers from cannibalization. Those who don't know, again, John might be able to help you to find out shortly. Right, now, I've got some amazing examples to show you, but before we do that, I'm going to pass back to Sophie, who's going to explain why it's a problem. Let me know when you want me to move on to the next slide, Sophie.
Thanks, John. Yep, so cannibalization, as John said, impacts pretty much every site out there. And John did some amazing research to show just how impactful it is as a barrier to your performance organically. You'll have to remind me specifically of the percentage, John, but it was, you proved that you are more frequently competing with your own website than you are with competitors' websites. Is that correct?
40% of that content sitting on pages 2 and 3 was down to cannibalization. They're to be fixed.
40% of the time you're actually competing with yourself rather than any other competitors in the SERP. So it's a very important thing to fix before you even look outside your own world. So obviously, if you're suffering from cannibalization, and you'll see this from John's examples later in the presentation, it impacts your rankings, which will impact your traffic, which is what we're all trying to stop happening so we can improve our performance in the SERPs. But not only does it impact your traffic, of course, if you're an e-commerce site or anybody whose business depends on conversions online, that's also going to massively impact your revenue as well. So here we can see website traffic patterns going down because of that cannibalization. But if you go on to the next slide, John, you can see that we can equate that to a monetary loss that this website is suffering due to the money they're losing from people not going on their site and on their specific pages, particularly converting pages, and all the revenue they're losing as a result of that. So it's a really good place to start when you are looking for commercial opportunities to improve your performance.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sophie. So let's get in to see the damage that cannibalization causes in this section on how you actually identify it. And this first example, I'm going to ask you a question in a minute. Is this or isn't it cannibalization? So what are we looking at? Cosmopolitan's website for the keyword makeup ideas. Now we're all looking for makeup ideas, aren't we? Smoky eyes and all this sort of thing. Okay, so you want your makeup. I think that's a thing. I think it's a thing.
It's definitely a thing.
Definitely a thing. I'm sure maybe people will tell us in the comments. I've got some hearts going up there. So people love smoky eyes, but Cosmopolitan is not on page 1, or they are sometimes, then they're not. They're jumping up and down. They're moving all over the place. Let's take a closer look. Wow. That wasn't one URL, but we've got 3 URLs behind this line, A, B, and C. So let's take a closer look at these 3 URLs that are appearing in the SERP. And wow, we've got these 3 pages. What do they have in common? They all talk about makeup tips. The keyword was makeup eyes. So we've got one there about making your life 100 times easier, 21 tips. You got Halloween makeup and 10 cloud makeup ideas. So at this point, another quick poll. We've got 3 URLs. Do we think this is cannibalization? Do we think it's cannibalization?
Okay, we'll give them a minute. Here they go. Here they go. Okay, so far, half and half. Yes and no.
Half and half. Okay. I was a little unfair there because I probably haven't given you enough information. You can't tell by just looking at that line. You've got to go one step further. We've got to look to see what's behind the line. And it turns out, now that everybody's tracking features in the search landscape, Cosmopolitan is present 3 times there with a classic link, with an image, and with another image. Each of those images coming from different pages. Can images compete with URLs? Wow, maybe we'll find out at the end. But for now, look at the blue line. Forget the other lines. Look at the blue line. That's their classic link. And it drops and it comes back. But this is not conflict. What we're seeing here are those two images that are sometimes and sometimes not appearing in the image block. So that is actually not cannibalization. So you've got to really look at the detail, and don't think because you've just got switching URLs, you've got cannibalization. Okay, these guys have got some work to do. That page needs a boost of authority, and they need to be present in the image consistently. Having said that, we're now going to go through 4 amazing examples of cannibalization that, trust me, get me so excited. Number 1, suspicious flux. Now, if you've heard me speak before, you'll have heard me talk about suspicious flux. I love it. I love it when a line is slightly wobbly. It means there's something going on. By the way, I never trust a straight line either, because that can be cannibalization as well. We always look behind the line. So we're going to buy a Kindle, everybody. We're off to the shops to buy a Kindle. We're actually not off to the shops. We're online. But we're not going to buy one from Best Buy because they can't even get onto page 1. That's the dotted line. Why can't they? Because they're dropping and dropping right down and coming back up and dropping down. Oh dear, Best Buy. Hope nobody's in the audience from Best Buy, but you're not going to be selling many Kindles with that keyword. Let's dig down a little bit further. Ooh, this looks good. And what do we have here? We've got 4 different URLs. And here's the interesting thing about cannibalization, guys. URLs don't just switch places, but you can have one there, like in green, that goes up to about position 90 or 80 and then pulls you off page 1. So it's not like for like. It depends on so many factors, such as authority and internal linking. But that is classic cannibalization that we discovered when we saw this suspicious flux. And those are the pages. Which one do they want to return for the trophy term Kindle? Well, it's that brown one at the bottom, the shop Amazon Kindle. But they haven't made it clear to Google. Got to get your internal linking sorted out, Best Buy. Next example. This is a good one. This is one you're all going to be telling your friends about tomorrow at work. When you're gathering around a water cooler, you're going to say, I watched these guys last night talking about cannibalization. Did you realize this can happen? Look at this. It's all in the detail. Oculus games. We want to buy some games for our Oculus, but we're not going to get them from Amazon. Sorry to pick on Amazon. Okay, we're not going to get them. Why not? Because they dropped off page 1. Let's look behind the line. Ooh, looks like we've got 2 URLs returning, but we need more information. Let's look at these pages. So far, so good. And the first thing you might think is, hang on a minute. Those pages look very, very similar. Those pages look almost identical, those search pages. Let's look at the URLs. And at this point, if we're in a room together, I would say there is a prize for the winner. And I would just throw bars of chocolate out. There's a prize for the winner. Who can see what's going on here? Oh, wow. Wow, look at that. The only difference between these 2 pages is one's got capital letters in the URL. That means it's different. So yeah, just because people are searching on Amazon, some are using capitals and some aren't, these 2 pages are being created. One cannibalizes with the other. So yes, the same with a trailing slash at the end. Yeah, somebody liked that one. More hearts, more hearts. So yeah, there are more hearts. So this is incredible. So remember that when you're around a water cooler tomorrow to tell your friends about that one. Okay. Next example. Content evolution. This is one we see time and time again. This is super common. And it poses a question. What do we do when we keep adding content about a topic? Well, let's take a look. Well, I want some information about the iMac Pro. But I'm not going to get my information from Tom's Guide, because poor old Tom's Guide has dropped off page 1. Poor old Tom's Guide looks like an ECG gone mad at the end there. We're definitely out of sinus rhythm there with Tom's Guide. So what's going on, Tom's Guide? Because your content is amazing. It's double eat, experience, expertise, authority, and trust. You've got all of that. And despite your best efforts, you have plummeted. Let's take a look. Wow, looks like we've got cannibalization or internal conflict. And what have Tom's Guide done wrong? All Tom's Guide have done is create great content. That's what they've done. Let's look at that great content. Oh, so we've got a rumors page there, and we've got a review page. And this is so typical about with content evolution. You get the rumors, you get the release, you get the review, you get the teardown. And unless you think really carefully, these pages, if you leave them up, they're still going to end up conflicting with each other. And we see this across a broad spectrum of content. So you've got lots of choices. Maybe we no index the rumors once it's been released and we're talking about the release. Maybe we do know. Maybe we can leave it there. You can still link to it so you can still see if the rumors were true. The rumors page, that went up on February the 17th. The review page went up on March the 26th. So classic cannibalization from content evolution. Can you prevent it? Yes, if you optimized contextually. And maybe we can talk a little bit more about that at the end. So next one. I wonder if anybody has any content, can they post questions on the way? Because I'm conscious there's a lot of information here. I don't know if that works. Inline conflict. Inline conflict. What is that? It's not inline skating, but it's inline conflict. Something that happens with cannibalization, and it's a variety of cannibalization. Why can't we get to position 1? Despite our best efforts, why can't we do it? And here is a great example. So this is Amazon again. I tell you what, guys. When I wanted to find examples of conflict, I literally walked to Amazon, looked at their website, and found 1,000. I literally found 1,000. It's costing a bucket load of money. You know, I had to stop myself in the end because there were so many good examples. But let's get back to this one. So we've got an Apple laptop. I've got one over there. Lost the charger, left it on the train, need a new one. And yeah, they are there. But why aren't they in position 1? Why are they struggling around in position 3 or 4? Big difference. Let's see what's going on. Oh, wow. Yeah. 2 pages. Always look behind the line. And this is classic cannibalization. 1 page drops out one day, 1 comes up another day. They don't always drop up and down. That causes this inline conflict. So always look behind the line if you're trying to get a little bit higher. Maybe I've got 2 or 3 competing pages. Okay, so which pages are these? Well, we've got 2 there. We've got Apple laptop charger and Mac computer charger. And the first question you've got to ask is, do we want to position for the term that we're in conflict for? The fact is, nobody searches Mac computer charger. Everybody searches Apple laptop charger. 20,000 average monthly searches. So yeah, we do want to position for that. Let's get rid of the conflict, and I guarantee they will jump up a couple of positions. So there we've seen just 4 examples of cannibalization. We could have gone all night and shown spectacular examples of all shapes and sizes, but we get the gist of how it works. We got some questions there. So Bowman Banford says, what software do you use to show these graphs? Yeah, they're amazing, aren't they? The software is Datametrics. And if you want to see a demo, go see Johnny Barker in the breakout afterwards, and he will show you how it's done with a most magical demonstration. Paige Klingerman asks, would making one of the content's focus key phrase different via Yoast another solve for a previous content evolution example? What you want to do, Paige, number 1 is really think about the title. The title is the strongest indicator to Google rather than the content itself. Content is important, but you focus on that title, you fix that, and I'll show you an example in a minute. Tyler Yoke, how would you recommend isolating cannibalization targets for remedy? This has been great to determine if it exists. Okay, I'm going to show you how we can fix it in about 2 minutes. Boris, very interesting. Thank you, Boris. Okay, right, let's move on. Let's move on to how to fix it. Okay, the first thing you have to do is make a decision and answer a question. Do you actually want to be visible for the search term that the cannibalization is apparent for? If you do, like say the laptop charger, 20,000 average monthly searches, yeah, you want that. You then have to decide which page you want to be the doorway into your world. Which page? And with that in mind, we move forwards and we fix it. So here we have an example. Let's go back to the linen blazers. If it wasn't so damned hot in London, I'd have a blazer on today, but it's far too hot. So we got 3 pieces of content: linen blazers, cotton blazers, summer blazers. Just imagine they all conflict for the term men's blazers. And they might do. They absolutely might. They probably don't for linen, probably don't for cotton, probably don't for summer, but they might conflict for men's blazers. Well, what we need to do, in actual fact, before we do anything, before you make any changes and start rushing in and changing title tags, check the visibility of each of those 3 pages for derivatives, longer tail terms. Check the visibility for features such as images. Okay, so with that in mind, we move forwards and we open our Cannibalization Toolkit. When I was building this presentation, I actually did a search in Mid-Journey for Cannibalization Toolkit, and it immediately shut me down. So I won't be doing that again. But anyway, back on we go. Okay, we're going to go through 6 things you can do, and hopefully that's going to answer some of your questions. I'm going to show you some really good examples as well. Number 1, downgrade the theming of the pages that you don't want to be your doorway. And I'll show you how we do that. And we, by and large, downgrade the theming by changing the titles. So we identify the page that we want to be visible. We downgrade the theming of the others. So our summer blazers jacket conflicts with men's blazers. The original title was Men's Summer Blazers. How about this? Using some artistic license, we changed the title to Summer Blazers for the Stylish Man. How about that? And then we boost the authority of that page with some optimized links, okay, that are not men's blazers. Because the links to men's blazers want to be going to the men's blazers page and not this one. That's how you downgrade the theming. You start with changing the title and then you boost with links. Merge and 301. Well, that's the next thing you can do. So if you've got 3 competing pages, you choose the doorway and then you can 301 an old one potentially, or maybe merge 2 pages into one. You're actually eliminating those competing pages. And you can combine any of these, and really they are so simple. You can find and identify cannibalization, but you've actually got to take steps to fix it. Here's another one. If you've got 2 pages competing and you want to strengthen one, downgrade the theming of the other one, okay? And how do you strengthen one? You can find old content on the same subject and 301 those pages from last year or the year before to this one and boost its authority. Bingo. Back on page 1, cannibalization is eliminated. And how do you find that old content? Use the good old site operator, mysite.com, and we're looking for men's blazers and, in inverted commas, an older year. And look, you know, who knows? We do this with sites all the time. You find content and pages from 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago just sitting around. So get that old content and put it to some good use, because nobody cares about it. Moving on. 4, well, we can link. We can simply link. Link to the page that we want to be the doorway using the anchor text men's blazers. So we are telling Google that's the men's blazers page because this page says so, and this one, and this one. And also that's going to benefit your audience as well. You can also no index. and archive potentially older content that is actually competing. And we use the no index quite a lot as well. And then in the case of the men's blazers, when you got linen, cotton, and summer all competing with each other, so often you think, well, why haven't we got a doorway page? And this could be, I'm trying to think, okay, summer shoes. Summer shoes. The men's summer shoes page might compete with the women's summer shoes page. Potentially, if that happens, you can make a hub page. Summer shoes, all about the best shoes for summer. The heels, the ballet flats. We all have a ballet flat, don't we? All these sorts of things. So make those hub pages. Here's an example of how that can work. Let's go back to our blazers. We put in the men's blazers page at the top, and then we link up to it in blue from summer, cotton, and linen with the anchor text men's blazers. Because I'm telling you, Google, that's men's blazers. We then link down to linen with the anchor text linen blazers, link to cotton, cotton blazers, summer blazers. So we are sending very clear signals through our internal linking. And then with men's blazers, what do we want to do? We want to get complementary authority. And how do you get that? Well, then you get other links using the anchor text men's blazers from men's fashion, from men's trousers. The men's trousers page, for example. Oh, I know a nice blazer that would go with that. Here it is on the men's blazers page. This is so simple, but yet so effective. So finding the complements, as simple as that. Site operator, my site. First, any page that mentions men's blazers, and then look for pages that mention men's fashion. As long as it's semantically relevant, you're cooking with gas or with charcoal, whichever way, but you're going to fix it. Now, those 6, use any combination. That's your toolkit. I'm now going to pass to Sophie, who's going to talk about how to monitor cannibalization.
Yeah, thanks, Jon. And yeah, before you go on, as I said, I saw Jon talk about cannibalization many years ago at Brighton SEO when I was working for a shoe brand, Clark Shoes. And you can imagine the amount of repetition there is for a shoe company with shoes, boots, sandals. It was a complete mess. We weren't getting any rankings, and creating those hub pages, sorting out our internal linking, getting all the breadcrumbs right, just absolutely massively helped us, and also helped the UX for the customers as well, because they knew where they were on the website, and it was absolutely invaluable to our performance. So I still love hearing about it now. So I'm just going to wrap this up. So once you've found this cannibalization and you've put some fixes in place, obviously you want to report back on how those fixes have impacted your performance. So there are a couple of things that are really important to this. So daily tracking is really key when you're looking at cannibalization, because in those charts that Jon showed you earlier, a lot of the drops in and rises up happen within the space of a week. So if you're only tracking weekly data and not daily data, you can't actually spot those URL switches. So daily data is so critical when you're looking at cannibalization. Tracking all URLs and tracking the top 100. If you're not tracking the top 100 URLs, you can't see those URLs that are coming in from the bottom of the SERPs that will be impacting your performance at the top. You might just completely miss it and not spot that it's cannibalization at all. Tracking all your rivals, obviously key. Tracking the past is very important to see if your content is improving in performance or declining because of cannibalization, so you can monitor a trend and obviously turn to Google as well. We've got a couple of tools at Pi that help with spotting cannibalization. So we have our favorite position explorer chart, which Jon will show now. So a lot of the charts came from this tool within Pi Datametrics, which shows you those really nice switches in and out of the SERPs. And as you can see, this is using daily data. We also have a conflict detector tool. So this helps you monitor the overall health of your conflict. It's really good to see if that at a top level is going up or down. So you can see generally if you're improving that linking, if those hub pages are making a difference, and if it's generally on the up or the down. And finally, we have conflict reports, so you can very easily identify which search terms are having the most URL changes, and you can prioritize that by search volume. You can add additional filters in there, for example, traffic and revenue, so you can really prioritize which pages you want to put your efforts into first. And I think that's everything. So I'll hand back to Jon for the takeaways.
Yeah, fine. And thanks for the comments, guys. And if we don't get through all the questions today, then hook up with Sophie and myself on LinkedIn, and we can continue the conversation. Key takeaways. You have got cannibalization. Who are you 4% out there? Send me your URLs and we'll find that cannibalization. It works at a keyword level. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, myself and a colleague were in a room, and they were trying to fix cannibalization by linking pages together. They've forgotten, what happens if I just produce another piece of content and inject it into my ecosystem without thinking? Well, that can cause cannibalization because you have to optimize contextually. It's about the keyword. Once you've identified it, and Sophie's shown some of the tools that we can use to identify it, make the decision. Which page do you want to be your doorway? Then you open your cannibalization toolkit. Don't do it in mid-journey because you will get banned. And then you can choose one or a range of those items to fix it. And yes, it can be prevented. And at some stage, probably we'll come on here and talk about contextual optimization. But in the meantime, you can always feel free to ask us about that. So I think at this point, we are going to open the breakout room where Johnny Barker is going to be there. He's not hard to miss. He's got the most incredible beard, and he's got a wide range of knowledge about this subject and about how to identify it. So that's where John's going to be. And I think Sophie and I are going to remain here for questions. Any questions?
Awesome. We have tons of questions. They didn't put them all in the chat. They were on the Q&A. So just real quick first, the breakout room should have opened. It should have had a little pop-up for you all. John, don't push that pop-up, okay? That's the one pop-up. You got to stay here with us right now. But for the rest of you, you can push the pop-up, or you can go up to the little breakout window that's up in the top right and click that, and you can go into that breakout room with Jon Barker. And our own Christina Robichaux is over there for tech support, but we're going to stay here for questions because we have so many of them. And the first one, it got the most thumbs up, and let me see, let me get back to the publish tab. So Evan is asking, what is the fourth type of cannibalization?
Oh, right, yeah. I didn't think anyone would actually come back and pin me down on that one.
They will at SEJ webinars. They will do that.
Oh yeah. Lucky I can remember it. Okay. So we got the internal, the subdomain. You got the international, and then we discovered this type of cannibalization called semantic flux. Why do we call it about semantic flux? It's about Google identifying a semantic relationship, not just with content, but with the domain. So this we see when you have a business that has sub businesses. Okay, that's in Google's knowledge graph. Google knows these are all connected, and then you can have different teams working on different content, building one website in a different place to another website. And if these are too similar, then these can conflict and cannibalize with each other. So that's what we call semantic flux. It's been around for years, and most people don't notice it. So here's what you need to do. If you suddenly see your visibility drop, look at the data and look at the date that you dropped. Have any other URLs moved up within 2 or 3 positions of you? Take a look at them, because 1 or 2 things might have happened. Number 1, it could be semantic flux. Number 2, they could have stolen your content. And to be honest, Google doesn't really care who came in first or second with the content. It's about freshness. So bear that in mind as well.
Okay, so I have a question more for the audience. They were talking earlier about how to throw you all off your game, and then Donna came in and she says, how do you know if there's too much sodium in your food? And Donna, I don't know that answer. So if it's a joke, I feel like I need to know that answer. If you can let us know, I'd appreciate that. But let's get back to the real reason why we're all here. Okay, So Aries asks, with local SEO, a common strategy is to make landing pages for geographic keyword. Cannibalization can be high since other keywords are similar across these landing pages. Would it matter if the company is not interested in national or global rankings? Did you get that?
I don't really get it, but that can happen. And I'd say if you hyper local, so say you have a dating site, I don't know. Let me think of something different. I don't know, car wash. Let me think of something. The complete opposite to dating is washing your car, of course. And I'm trying to think of American cities. So you could have the subject, this city, the subject, city B, subject, city C, D, E, F. And generally, if the search volume for those terms is high enough, it's enough to have the city. The rest of the title can be the same as a differentiator. The key thing is you want that content to be different. Otherwise, Google sim hash is going to catch you out, and your content one could actually just vanish. So you should be fine with localization. We've worked with lots of local companies, and if the volumes are there, you should be fine. Hopefully that answers it.
Perfect. So Karen asks, would no indexing a page that is competing internally with another page hurt the overall search visibility of the site?
Not if you're doing it for the odd page here or there to actually fix it, but it's a good method for actually, so you can no index follow it, not no index on its own, so the authority can still be passed around the site, but just choose wisely. Choose the page that you want to be your doorway, the page that you are no indexing. Remember, before you tamper, before you no index, before you do anything else, make sure it doesn't position in its own right for one or more terms that could be giving you a lot of traffic. If it's safely not, you can no index it.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that page has a lot of value in itself, then you might want to consider retheming it around a related search term that might still be valuable, because you'll still have some authority from that page.
Absolutely. Lengthen that tail. Look in autocomplete, because let's face it, everybody's going to autocomplete, but Google says the volumes aren't there. I don't know, something doesn't add up. But yeah, leverage autocomplete, leverage the SERP multiverse.
So Vlad asks for advice on how to avoid cannibalization on news sites where the same topic pops up daily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tell you what, did some work many years ago with CNN. And this was actually that for Donald Trump, they had about 150 pages all competing because there were loads and loads and loads of stories. So we said, why don't you build a hub page? Build a hub page. They just didn't have a hub page. The hub page is such a great way. Did this years ago with Sky as well. We created these pages called hot topics pages. So when there was a topic that was going to be building out and lots of things going on, there's something kicking off in the world somewhere, build a hub, but still have your stories. Each story points to the hub, gives it the authority.
Yeah, I think that's a common strategy now with many news sites, is to have that hub. And obviously every article that's written should be themed slightly differently as well. And like Jon said, just point it all back to the hub. So
exactly. I think that answered Elaine's question as well, because she was asking about hub pages, if they're meant to be the doorway for the page that you'd want to rank.
I think that depends a little bit on user intent as well. I think the hub page is a great place to land people if they have more kind of general search inquiries. But if you're an e-commerce site, for example, and somebody searched for a more specific kind of high intent product, then you'd probably want to rank the product that they were searching for as the doorway into your website. But if they were searching more generally, for example, summer shoes, then the hub place would be a great place to land them, because then from there they can go to all the different types of shoes that they might want to go and research and explore. So I think that depends on the search term and how you want to get that person to the fastest kind of useful information on your website.
Sharon asks, with brands that have lower domain and brand authority as compared to competitors, it's easier to rank on long tail keywords rather than broader keywords, which will lead to conflict for the keywords. What would you recommend in situations like that?
I love the long tail. I love it. I'm all for it. And literally, so if you are a smaller site, embrace that long tail, because, you know, in 12 months' time, search is not going to be the same as it is today, with the advent of what we're seeing happening in search. You know, with the changes that we're seeing in search, you know, people are being encouraged to use longer queries, to use voice. Embrace that longer tail. You're not going to get the same conflict with longer tail. Search is becoming personal. Search is becoming a conversation. And all those small businesses with your wonderful content targeting the longer tail are going to start winning. That is a promise.
Yeah. And I think to add to that, this was a strategy we adopted a lot when I was working for Clark Shoes. We looked at the long tail. We looked at informational searches. So when people were asking, you know, what's the best type of shoes for my children? What ages should children start wearing shoes? And if you target that long tail and some of those informational searches and get potential customers to your site through those searches, you've actually answered their question and given them some information. And we found from an e-commerce point of view, if you landed somebody on a content page before you landed them on a product page for those informational searches, your conversion rate was much higher and your return rate for that customer was much higher, because you've actually given them the answer to their question. So I think that's a really great tactic to adopt.
So Aries asks, is it better to continuously expand on a particular content page to make it stronger rather than making similar content topic pages?
Yeah, that's an age-old question. It depends. Okay, to use the SEO phrase, it depends, should be on a t-shirt. But freshness is so important. And I think freshness, I would rather see freshness applied to one page than another page that's actually too similar, because there you might end up with more conflict with adding additional content. And how do you find that? Well, you go to the SERP. You always go to the SERP, and we look at people also ask. We know that you answer those questions. That gives you the ability to build out fresh content on a page that aligns closely with the intent of the audience. And what is the SERP? It's nothing more than a manifestation of searcher intent. So embrace it. Freshen your content. Use that. Don't just build lots of pages that are too similar, or we're back where we started.
So looking through the chat, it looks like Bowman asks, so let's step back here for 1 second. Bowman's asking, what do you mean by a hub page? So for anyone who might not know, basics on that.
Yeah, so when you've got, for example, you might have like the blazers one, that's great. So we might have 5 pages dedicated to different types of blazers, but we don't have a men's blazer doorway page. And when we don't have that hub pointing to those spokes, then we're going to end up in conflict if somebody searches for the trophy term. You won't have conflict for the longer tail, for men's linen blazers. For men's, they won't conflict because they're themed. But if you search for high level men's blazers, you get the conflict. So hub and spoke, but you must channel authority down, make it clear that's linen, that's cotton, that's whatever else, and you channel authority up. Those are men's blazers. That applies across the board. That applies across all of e-commerce.
Yeah. You could see it as like a high level hierarchical structure. So men's blazers would be like the top level category page linking to the next subcategories that might be summer blazers, linen blazers, etc. And then those pages link down to the products, and then they all link back up again. So I think it's a really good idea when you're mapping out your internal linking to have that kind of hierarchical structure in mind, like what's the top level category and what are the children of that top level category, and then what are the products of those children. And that will really help you kind of stay true to it when you're going through and checking your internal links as well.
Okay. A question from Amy. Do you have any tips or recommendations for convincing clients or powers that be that this is a worthwhile endeavor? Specifically, something like the stats that you have would be incredible.
Show them the numbers. Show them that loss of visibility. You know what? Use like the cannibalization reports that Sophie was talking about. That's the proof of the pudding. Show the loss of visibility and match that up with the loss of revenue. Would you say, Sophie?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you do find that as SEOs, we know that sometimes it can be hard to get our point across in big teams and big website teams and e-commerce teams, but showing them the loss of revenue and the potential loss of revenue tends to get people sitting up and listening to what you have to say. And unfortunately, having an odd disaster here and there where somebody hasn't necessarily kind of taken on board your advice of that internal linking, and maybe somebody else in an e-commerce department has accidentally removed a hub page, which happens to me a few times, and then you can really clearly demonstrate the loss of revenue and quickly get it back up, and people do start listening when they see the loss of traffic and the loss of revenue from resulting from that cannibalization.
All right. Some of these are extremely detailed, and to read them out loud I would butcher them. Let's just be real. So
they could always ping them on LinkedIn or something.
Yeah,
I think for some of those longer ones, we'll send them your way, and you all can follow up afterwards.
I can't reiterate enough how much Jon will love to answer your questions on this. It's like a hobby for him.
And the longer and more tricky, the better.
Yeah.
And there's a fix for everyone.
So, question from Chrissy. She says, how does this affect, so I'm assuming keyword cannibalization, how does it affect blogs and similar keywords used from Cornerstone content?
It affects every piece of content, literally from the home page with semantic flux to the next layer down to the next one to the next one. And really, as a content creator, what you absolutely have to do is before you publish any piece of content, stop and ask the question, what content do I have in my ecosystem that is potentially conflicting? And what content do I have in my ecosystem that is complementary? So you deal with the potential conflicts before it happens. How do you find those? Use that site operator with the title, with the keyword. So if you've got 3 other pages with the same keyword in the title, you push this in there, you kill them, they kill you, your site loses, your competitors win. So identify that before it happens and then apply one of those fixes. And then when you put the new content in, give it authority, for goodness sake. Don't just put it in there on its own, like sending your child off to school on the first day without the lunchbox. Give it authority. You know, that's love. That's love. Internal links, they're like sandwiches to a small child. I can't believe I said that, by the way. But.
I was going to say, that's new.
Yeah.
Maybe sandwiches with the crust cut off. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Peanut butter and jelly, as they have in the US.
Triangles.
So Jason asks a question, and I don't know that we're going to be able to get into the step-by-step process that the requester is, but how do you identify cannibalization?
So I'm sure Jon would love to go into a step-by-step process of this, but I am conscious of time. But in our handouts, or I can send a link to it to all the attendees afterwards, we do have a step-by-step cannibalization guide with examples of how people can identify that going through their own process and their own websites. So it's something we've used with many brands that can be a handout afterwards or a follow-up afterwards. Otherwise, you might be here for a few more hours while Jon takes you through a detailed
step. Yeah, I didn't even try to answer it, but honestly, guys, reach out to us on LinkedIn, and if you've got examples and you want stuff that you need looking at, then honestly, reach out. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and so for all of you out there, there's a handouts tab. You chat Q&A polls and the handouts. There are 3 handouts in there, and those will all be included in your email. We'll link to them in the resources, but make sure you snag those as well, Jason. Okay, so let's see if we can find one more. So this is probably going to be an open-ended. This could open us up to hours, probably more of conversation, but I'm going to ask it anymore because we're close to the end. So Jon, Sophie, Amy asks, were there any points that you'd love to talk about, but you couldn't fit into the presentation? So any takeaways that maybe you didn't get to cover today?
I mean, for me, okay, one would have to be preventing it from happening in the first place. You know, preventing it from happening, that process of contextual optimization, of which optimizing in the context of your ecosystem is one of 4 contexts. But if you don't optimize in the context of your ecosystem, as I just went through there, that you're asking for cannibalization. You're taking the sandwiches away. Kid goes off hungry. So that one, and then really just, you know, going into more detail on the fixes, because every single case of cannibalization can be fixed. I'd love to have gone through more examples and shown the specific fix. We had one amazing example with a client, 56, okay, where they sent an editor abroad to review hotels and to review beaches for the Cinque Terre in Italy. It's a beautiful, colorful place. And it came back, they put all the content up there and their visibility actually dropped. So they lost their ad revenue from that. They lost their ad revenue. So we literally had to pull it apart, create one doorway page, downgrade the theming, internally link. So just be looking at some really good examples of those. So preventing it, and then some specific examples of how to fix it. There is a fix, but I would say one thing we didn't mention was when you analyze the conflicts you have on a page, say you have a report, there's always a pattern. You get a pattern of conflict. And then with that pattern, you can pretty much start to move week on week, and eradicate your cannibalization. That 40% goes to 0%. You're suddenly making a ton of revenue. I'll stop.
Yeah. Just to add quickly to that, there's a couple of points as well. For me, that just going into more detail of the hierarchy of how you would structure internal linking, I just can't reiterate enough once we mapped all of that out. And if we could have shown some examples, that would have been really good. To get your category pages and your subcategory pages really neatly. I think prioritization is another massive thing here, because as we've said, every single site has cannibalization. If you're an e-commerce site, chances are you'll have thousands and thousands of pages. You don't need to fix every single page that's cannibalizing one another. You really need to try and find and prioritize those ones that are going to generate you more traffic and more revenue. And I think sometimes when you get lost in all of that data and all of that information, you think you have to fix it all. But if you prioritize the search terms that are being affected by high search volume, high intent, high potential conversion, then if you fix those first, then you're spending your time so much more efficiently. And then finally, just dealing with seasonality and seasonal pages, things like Black Friday, Christmas, other holidays, dealing with those and making sure that they keep their authority year on year without cannibalizing any other pages that come in. But as we said, if you have any questions on any of those, just reach out to Jon or myself.
Yeah, love to hear from you guys.
Jon, Sophie, thank you so much for being here with us, for sharing your knowledge. Big thanks to Jon Barker in the breakout room. I told Christina we're wrapping up on this side, they're wrapping up on that side too. Thank you everybody for joining. Tyler Yoke, thanks for the shout out. I'll take that. But yeah, that's what we try to do. It's all about our guests here. So with that, Jon, Sophie, tell the people where to find you.
Yep, so you can obviously find Jon or me on our LinkedIn pages. We also, obviously, you can find out more about Datametrics on our website. Jon does loads of webinars in a series called SEO in the Shed. So we've got hundreds of kind of archived ones. That's his shed that he's in now. And future ones coming up all the time. I'm just sharing the link in the chat as well to the cannibalization guide for those who don't find it in the handouts. But yeah, please reach out to us at any point. We'd love to hear from you.
And thank you for all your kind comments, guys. We really appreciate it. Yeah, it means so much to us. Thank you.
Yeah, this was great. Great engaging, great information. You know, if you want to check out next SEJ webinar, subscribe to us at searchenginejournal.com/subscribe. And with that, hope you all have a great day. We'll see you on the next webinar. Bye all. Thanks, Jon. Thanks, Sophie.
Great. Thanks, Heather. Bye.